Hello, this is Jamie, and this is Supplier T News. On today's topic, we're going to be talking about China allowing three children to be born via parents. This news just broke a couple hours ago. Definitely something that I wanted to talk about from a business perspective and what this may mean. But before I get into it, as always, if you like what we have, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment, and share with other people you think may be interested in this content. All right, let's get into it. So, one of the big things that has been going around just throughout the globe has really been population, right? Birth rates. This is something that's been a huge topic as it relates to the United States of America, as we're seeing birth rates drop. A lot of reasons for that, which we're going to get into. But while we're having issues in population in America, other countries are dealing with this in a lot worse ways. One of the big pieces is China. So, long story short, a couple of decades ago, well, actually a lot of decades, no, depending upon how old you are, decades ago, China had a massive growth in population, so they released their one-child policy. What that means is that they mandated that you were only allowed to have one child per couple. There is some kind of caveats to that. People think that, if you had more than one, then, it was illegal and you go to jail. No, if you did have more than one, you had to pay a fine. It was a very expensive fine, but, excuse me. But most people kind of followed the one child policy, and that was it. A couple years ago, in 2015, 2016, because of that one child policy, obviously what happened is that birth rates started to decrease. But because their population was so huge, they figured that was fine and they could adjust quickly. So because of that, in 2015, 2016, China released the two-child policy, which allowed parents to have two children. Now, in only, 7 years later, 6, 7 years later, now China is releasing and stating that you can now have three children. Now, a couple things here, and then we'll get to the business perspective. For those, if you are a person who's kind of watching this whole birth rate as it pertains to China and what's going to happen here, this is really big, right? Because in order for, I don't want to go too in depth because this could be like a really long video. I'm not trying to make it that long, but basically, in order for a population to grow and for an economy to grow, it kind of works in there's three different kind of groups, right? You have 0 to 18, which is more so the group where you have to essentially invest in them and develop them to become working class citizens, if you will. Then you have the 18 to 50 population, which these are the people who are working and producing, making money, so that way they can take care of the 0 to 18. And they also have to take care of the last group, which is the over 50 crowd, right? And but both sides, from the 0 to 18 to the over 50, typically, obviously you can work past that, but typically they are the consumption base, right? They are the ones that are living. However, they need to be supported by the 18 to 50. So because of that, your 18 to 50 always has to be the largest portion. The more that you have there, the easier an economy can support these other two groups and sustain them. Because of these different birth rates and because of the drop, what you're going to have now is a lot more people in that over 50 range, obviously because of, benefits or growth in health and things like that. People are living longer. But the issue is again, that this population is going to grow larger and larger, and you have a smaller group that has to support them, right? This means things like higher taxes, maybe even lower wages, too much, not enough people to work in different places to support these types of businesses. We're going to see a lot of alarming things that may happen. Now, why is the three policy big, and why are there some issues to this, right? Three policy, this should be able to fix everything, right? Well, not so fast, right? One of the things, it's throughout this article, I'll leave a link, but I'm probably just going to kind of talk here a little bit. But one of the big questions that a lot of people have to ask is that, okay, if we went to two children, shouldn't that have fixed it? If you're moving to three children, a three-child policy, that must mean that a lot of parents didn't really decide to have more than one child. One of the big pieces is that, culture, right? Because they institute a one-child policy, you have a huge population who are now older who all grew up as single children, so they're used to it. So they're used to smaller families. So from a culture perspective and just how their experience when they grew up, they're so used to not having brothers or sisters that they're just like, I'm fine with just having one child. In addition, and here's the big one, because this is universal for everyone, the cost of raising a child is extremely high. And it's only getting worse. And this is global wide. I mean, we're getting to the point where the Biden administration, who knows if they're actually going to push this initiative, policy, whatever you want to call it, forward. But they are now talking about essentially paying people to have children. So if you have a children, they're going to give you a credit so that way you can help subsidize some of the cost of raising a child. And that's coming, from America, where while our birth rates are dropping, our system set up vastly different than China. So the fact that we're talking about that, I believe that that's going to get a lot of traction in the years to come. China's not even talking about that. They're just saying, hey, it's your duty. Again, culture's different, but hey, it's your duty. We need you to have more children. But regardless of what happens at this moment, this whole issue with population is still going to happen. It's still going to hit them. And we're going to see some very big issues, right? So as you can see, the one-child policy took effect in 1979. Since then, the birth rate has decreased, but now they're going to have issues as they grow older. One of the things that was that was said here, I'm not going to talk about the gender gap between that. It is what it is. But one of the things that was said here is that while the GDP of China is growing from a size perspective, sure, that's great. But from a person-to-person perspective, it's actually not that good, right? In order for China to, on a person-per-person perspective, to match the GDP output of, like, say a Spain, they need to more than double their GDP. So what you're essentially having is, yes, the GDP is large, but you do have the majority of the population that aren't in that middle class, that are in the lower class, that still, you still have to create jobs for them. You still have to create wealth for them so that more people are benefiting from this economy. And again, while you probably hear that and you say, well, that should be fixed if the population is decreased, more jobs available. Well, no, because again, you still have to do things such as tax them more in order to take care of the aging population. So that would not fix that. So it's really interesting because there's been, I was looking at a couple of videos and, they were talking about how, in the next 5 to 6 years, China's going to match in terms of size or pass the United States. I'm extremely skeptical of it. I'm just going to be completely honest. I graduated college in 2010 and, I'll never forget on my way out of college, it was a lot of quote unquote experts that were like, you need to learn Chinese because in the next, 4 to 5 years, China's going to overtake America when it comes to economy, when it comes to GDP, right? So that was, I've been hearing every year since 2009, 2010, I've been hearing that China's going to overtake America in the next 5 years. We're over 10 years down, and we're still hearing in the next 5 years. So I'm skeptical on that, but if you care, that's out there. But the big issue is that once China, let's say that this time the 5 years happens, once China hits that, now their population is going to start to decrease, and I think it's 2027 where the population is going to decrease by 10 million every workforce, I should say, is going to decrease by 10 million every year. That is a huge. So right when they're getting, right when they're overtaking in terms of an economy, the support for that economy is going to drop significantly. Excuse me. Now, what does this mean, right? What does this mean overall in terms of like businesses and things of the like, right? Because America has birth rate issues as well. Well, yes, while America does have birth rate issues, America has always had birth rate issues. I think in order to sustain a population, you need to like 2.5 children. I think every couple needs to have 2.5 children to kind of support it. America, throw the rhetoric out the way for a second here that you hear on your common news channel. America is an extremely immigrant friendly country when compared to other countries, right? Such as like a Japan, well, specifically in Asia, Specifically because we're just gonna talk about Asia because we're talking about China today. So because of that, while Americans, who are born and raised here, while our birth rates are low, because we're such an immigrant friendly country, like we can just pretty much repopulate ourselves extremely easier. In addition to that, I mean, we're just really immigrant friendly. Like it again, get I understand the rhetoric, which goes back and forth. We need to decrease immigration. America, Canada, some parts of you, like there's just America and Canada specifically, especially North America. Like we're nobody, no one is, well, not no one, because you have Native Americans, but a large portion of our population is just not from these lands. So because of that, accepting new people into the country in order to mix our culture is just something like that's what we're built on. So we'll always be more friendly to immigrants than versus like a China, for example. So because of that, when their birth rate decreases, they don't have anything to sustain that or even help offset that like in America will, which our birth rates are decreasing. We can just increase our immigration and then just accept more people. In addition, because we have immigration, one of the things that doesn't get talked about a lot, and why I keep hearing this, next 5 years China's going to take over, but they never do, is that, with immigration, you get a lot of new ideas and you get, an increase in things such as like technology, right? Like Elon Musk, right? He's a product of immigration, right? When you have things like, Steve Jobs, again, another product of immigration. When you get these type of people into your country and, have these free-flowing ideas, you're able to hit on things that you may not have hit on had you not been so. So because of that, that our birth rate issues just aren't as alarming as a China. And then, again, we're on the service consumption base versus China, which is really on the export base. So they have to continue with the export in order to grow their economy. So it's just a lot of things there. But kind of went on a little bit of a tangent. But what does this mean for small businesses? So in the next decade, based off of what I was kind of researching here, it's not going to be that much of a change. To be completely honest, China is still going to be extremely competitive. They still have time, or I should say delayed time, when it comes to their population and, putting things out when it comes to product and services. Now, in about 20 years, that's when they're predicting, okay, we're going to see we're going to see a drop when it comes to their production and their output. They just don't have enough people to produce how they're producing today. This is why China is investing extremely heavily in automation and other types of technology so that they continue with the output. But unless they can hit on something in the next decade, then they're going to see an extreme drop. Their wealth is going to see a drop, and it's going to coincide with that. And what we may see is that, people who are being born people who have been born like the 2000s, for example, or, 2010s, in America specifically, they may see a huge competitive advantage if China is not able to produce the way that they're producing today. So again, for the people who own businesses, starting businesses now, in the next decade or two, you may not see any change, but for your children's children and your children specifically, we could see a massive shift and a lot of opportunities that are coming up simply because the population of China just isn't there to support the products and services that they're offering today. So kind of a long way to get there, but thought it was pretty interesting. Thought that you would want to know. Again, this news just came out today. I had to do some quick research and kind of tell you about this, but again, thought that it was interesting. So if you like this type of content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, leave a like, leave a comment, and share with other people you think may be interested in this content. All right, with that being said, thank you so much and have a great day.